Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the next class. In the previous class, we discussed about the long transmission line, and we discussed what is ZC, that is the characteristic impedance. And today we will start again with the ZC, that is the characteristic impedance. It's given by Z, that is the series impedance, which is equal to R plus J omega L, divided by Y, which is the shunt admittance, which is equal to G plus J omega C whole square root. Practically, we neglect the G and we take it as 0, so this becomes R plus J omega L divided by J omega C. So this is known as characteristic impedance. Its units is ohm, and it is always independent of the line length. Gamma, which is known as propagation constant, it's a complex number. It will be square root of y into z. So y is J omega C multiplied by z, that is R plus J omega L. So let us take an example and let us have an insight how their value look like. So this is, let us say this is R plus J omega L. In the previous class, in one question, we saw that this R was equal to 40 and this J omega L was equal to 125 for the whole length of the line. And Y, the total shunt admittance of the line, was given as to be 10 to the power minus 3. So I calculated it as Y is equal to J 10 to the power minus 3. So YZ will be equal to minus, when I multiply these two, it comes out to be minus 0.125 plus J 0.04, and in polar form it will be like this: 0.131244 at an angle of 162.255. Now actually I have to calculate gamma. Gamma is the square root of YZ, so it will be the same YZ raised to power 1 by 2, that is square root. So I write this angle in terms of in Euler form, that means it will be equal to e raised to power j 162.255. Then I will raise to power this 1 by 2, separate it to this and to this whole term. So it will be 0.131244 raised to power 1 by 2 and e raised to power j 162.255 raised to power 1 by 2. Now when I square root take the square root of this, it comes out to be 0.3622, and when I take the square root of this, actually this is power and this is power, they will get multiplied. So it will be actually 162.255 divided by 2, it is 81.1275. So it comes out to be 0.3622 at an angle of 81.125. In general, actually I have shown you the proof how to do this. So when you take the square root or any power of a complex number in polar form, you take the power to this directly and you multiply that power to this, so to the angle. So the power has to be taken, or power has to be raised to the magnitude of this complex number, and this power has to be multiplied to the angle of this complex number. You can see directly the square root of this will be equal to this value, and multiplication of this, that is 162.255 divided by 2, will be equal to 81.1275. So in general, you should remember this without looking into this proof. You will do it directly like this. So again, taking this into the rectangular form, this will be equal to 0.0558 plus j 0.3578. So you can see it is in the form of alpha plus j beta, where alpha is the real part of this and real part is known as the attenuation constant. Its unit is Napier's per unit length, and beta is its imaginary part. So it is known as phase constant and its unit is radians per unit length. Actually this alpha here is, I will come to this. For the time being, you just remember this. This gamma has two parts. One is real and another is imaginary part. So real part is known as attenuation constant with units Napier per unit length, and imaginary part is known as phase constant with units radians per unit length. Now again, let us calculate ZC. ZC is equal to root of Z by Y, where Z is equal to 40 plus J 125 divided by J 10 to the power minus 3. It comes out to be root of this, and then while using it in polar form, it will be equal to this term raised to power 1 by 2. So in this case again, I will take the square root of this, so that will be equal to 362.272, and I will be multiplying this power to this. That means this has to be divided by 2. That will be equal to minus 8.8723. So you need to keep this in mind that this ZC or characteristic impedance will always have a negative angle if R is present. If R is not present over here, you will see that this angle will be 0, because here the angle will be 90, this angle will be less than 90 because of the presence of this resistance R. So angle which is less than 90, then when you take the summation of two angles which are, one is at numerator and is at denominator, we have to subtract it. The angle, let us say it is 75 minus this is 90, it will be equal to minus 15, and square root of this, that means we have to take the half of this, that is minus 7.5. What I mean to say is that this angle will be always negative angle. So for a lossless line, you will see that R is equal to 0 and G is equal to 0. We have already discussed this. So in that case, this part will also be equal to 0. So this will be equal to, this is 0, this is 0. That means our ZC will be equal to J omega L divided by J omega C. This J omega will cancel. It will be directly equal to root of L by C. It is a real number. It is resistive in nature with angle is equal to 0. So you can see from here to here, at the maximum, the angle of the characteristic impedance will be 0. Otherwise, it will always be negative. So gamma, you will see gamma will be equal to, that's what here, J omega C. This R is 0. J omega C into J omega L. That's what I have written over here. J omega C into J omega L. So J into J will be J square, omega into omega will be omega square, and L into C. I will take J into omega outside this square root. It will be J omega root of LC. So here we have only the imaginary part. So earlier we have alpha and beta, but now when R is equal to 0, we have only this J omega root of LC. That means we have only beta. So that means alpha is equal to 0 and beta will be equal to omega root of LC. We'll come to this again for a lossless transmission line as an approximation, but for the time being, you should keep in mind that when two things, that this angle will change from some, this angle will always be negative. It will only be 0 when R is 0 and G is 0. Second thing, when R is 0 and G is 0, this alpha is equal to 0 and beta is equal to omega root of L by C. Now one more thing, earlier we have derived this Vx, it was equal to Vr plus IR ZC divided by 2 e raised to power gamma x, we had derived in the previous class, plus Vr minus IR ZC by 2 e raised to power minus gamma x. Actually it was solution, and we have calculated this A and B from the initial conditions. So let us call this term as V1 and this term as V2. The total, it will become V1 plus V2. Similarly, Ix is equal to Vr plus IR ZC divided by 2 IZC into e raised to power gamma x. This should be gamma x plus Vr minus IR ZC divided by 2 IZC e raised to power minus gamma x. Let's say it is equal to I1 plus I2, because this term I have coined as I1 and this term I have taken to be I2. So this term is known as, that is first V1, that is Vr plus IR ZC divided by 2 e raised to power gamma x, is an incident voltage wave, and this term, where we have only minus over here and minus over here, it is a reflected voltage wave. Similarly, this term is known as incident current wave, and this term is known as reflected current wave. In case of transmission line, the voltage or current are taken to be as waves. They are transmitted from sending end to receiving end as waves, and when they reach any point, there may be two parts of the wave. One that is transmitted over to the receiving end. Another part of the wave may be reflected back to the sending end. So in general, we have two types of waves which make the voltage and current, that is incident voltage wave and reflected voltage wave, and we have incident current wave and reflected current wave. So we'll talk about this when we talk about the transients in power system, and also in the characteristic impedance. We always want this to be equal to 0, because we don't want the voltage wave to be transmitted or reflected back. We want whatever voltage we are sending, it should be transmitted to the receiving end. There should not be any part of the voltage that should be reflected back, especially in case of communication circuits, because in case of communication circuits, voltage wave means the information. If some of the voltage wave is reflected back, that means some of the information is reflected back, and the receiving end is not getting the exact information that has been sent from the sending end. So let us now come to the characteristic impedance. We have to do something with this also, reflected waves. When we come to the characteristic impedance and also the surge impedance loading. Now, characteristic impedance ZC. If the line is terminated by the characteristic impedance ZC, then VR is equal to IR ZC. You can see from this diagram, this is VR and this is the load ZC. We are terminating, or we are applying a load uh, that is equal to ZC to this receiving end, and it draws a current of IR. So this means that this VR is equal to IR into ZC. Now from this equation you can see this IR ZC is equal to VR. That means this Vx will be equal to VR plus VR divided by 2 e raised power gamma x plus this is VR, this is VR, this term will be 0. This term will be 0. Similarly, Ix will be equal to VR plus VR divided by twice ZC into e raised power gamma x plus IR minus IR ZC divided by twice ZC. This term will again be equal to 0. So this Vx will be equal to VR plus IR divided by 2 e raised power gamma x. So this will be twice VR by 2, 2 and 2 will cancel out, VR e raised power gamma x. So Vx will be equal to VR e raised power gamma x or VR e raised power j beta x for the R is equal to 0. This is for the lossless line. So at x is equal to L, Vx is equal to Vs. That means Vs is also equal to VR e raised power j beta L, or Vs is equal to VR at an angle of beta L. This can be also be written as VR at an angle of j beta L. Same will be the case of the current. Current will also be equal to Is is equal to IR e raised power j beta x, and Is is equal to IR at an angle of beta L. That means the voltage magnitude will be constant throughout the line length. It will not change. It will only change by angle, that is angle of this. Same is the case with the current. The current magnitude from sending end to receiving end will not change. It will remain the same. Only angle will definitely change. So this is in the case when we are terminating the transmission line by the its characteristic impedance. So the voltage profile from receiving end to sending end will be looking like this. It will be constant throughout the line length. There will not be any change. This is the magnitude of the voltage that is plotted versus distance. This is the distance. This is 0. This is up to x, and this is x is equal to L when set sending end. So this type of voltage is known as flat voltage profile, and such type of line is known as flat line or infinite line, because at any point of the line the current as well as the voltage will be same. Also, the reflection of the voltage V2 and the current I2 will be 0. That means these two quantities will be equal to 0. As I have told you, this VR is equal to this IR ZC. That means this will be equal to 0. This will also be equal to 0. V2 will be equal to 0. I2 will be equal to 0. But practically, transmission lines are not terminated by ZC, because this termination is actually in the hands of the load. In load, it's usually variable. We have a different types of loads. We don't have exactly equal to ZC, so that is not in our hand. So why do we then study this surge impedance, or we can say surge impedance loading? I will come to this shortly. And this is actually applicable to the communication lines where the communication line is terminated by ZC to eliminate this V2 and I2. I told you at this that for a communication line it is important to the receiving end to get all the information that is sent from the sending end. So to avoid the loss of information, there should not be any reflection, and this can be avoided by having the communication line terminated by its characteristic impedance. Usually the overhead line has a characteristic impedance of the order of 400 ohms, and underground cables has a characteristic impedance of the 400 ohms. And the phase angle of the ZC, that's characteristic impedance, is from -15 to 0 degrees. I have told you earlier how this can be calculated and this can be get. Bundle conductors have lower ZC as L is less and C is more in case of bundle conductors, because bundle conductors are usually used to increase the GMR. When GMR increases, ln of dm by ds will decrease, so inductance will decrease. And in case of capacitance, since this ln of dm by ds is in the denominator, so capacitance will increase. So for bundle conductor, Zs will lower. Again, this Zc is equal to root of Z by, it is independent of line length. It's very important and you need to keep this in your mind. Now surge impedance and surge impedance loading. So there is a slight difference between surge impedance and characteristic impedance. The surge impedance is actually applicable to a lossless line where R is equal to 0 and G is equal to 0. Then this Zc is equal to root of L by C, and this is known as surge impedance of the line. And this is also independent of the line length, and its unit is also ohms. This is a purely resistive in nature, and because it contains only the real number. So surge impedance is only resistive in nature, contains only real number. There is not any imaginary number. Then the angle will be 0. So that's why it is known as surge impedance of the line. So surge impedance loading of a line is a power delivered by the line to a purely resistive load equal to its surge impedance. So when the line is terminated by a load resistance whose value is equal to the surge impedance of the line, so the power delivered to that resistance is known as surge impedance loading. So we can calculate this. So let us say we have a system line voltage given as VL. So receiving end voltage will be equal to VL by root 3, because we are try to use the per phase analysis. So this will be equal to VL by root 3, and IL, that's a line current, will be same as the receiving end current. IR, that will be equal to VR by ZC. So VR is VL by root 3 and ZC is as it is, but here ZC is not this R plus J omega L by J omega C is equal to root of L by C, because here we are assuming R is equal to 0. So this PR is equal to 3 times IR square into ZC, by IR is equal to VL, IR square will be equal to VL square by 3 into ZC square. So 3 into VL square will be 3 into ZC square into ZC. This ZC and this one ZC will cancel out. This 3 and this 3 will cancel out. It will be equal to VL square by ZC. So finally, this VL surge impedance loading will be given as VL square by ZC. So you can calculate the surge impedance loading for any line given the voltage, system voltage in 3-phase and its characteristic impedance. So as a rough, you can calculate the surge impedance loading of a 400 kV line, overhead line, and since I have given you the value of the ZC, which is equal to 400 ohms, so you can calculate it. 400 square divided by 400, which comes out to be 400 megawatts. So when this is in kilowatts, this whole term will be in megawatts. Usually the permissible loading of the transmission line may be expressed as a fraction of the surge impedance loading. So surge impedance loading is actually, this is the important point why we use the surge impedance loading. It is used to express the actual loading of the transmission line in terms of the surge impedance loading. And one more important thing is that it also provides a comparison of load carrying capability of a line. If we have two lines and we know the surge impedance loading, we can roughly say which line will carry more power in actual practice, because that more power will be definitely proportional to the surge impedance loading. Now let us try to do the same numerical that we have already done. That numerical was actually for the 300 kilometers. I have not mentioned there the length of the line deliberately so that you will not get confused over here. I will do the exact analysis of the line. You will see there will be slight difference from the earlier parameters we have calculated, that is efficiency and voltage regulation, and the voltage regulation efficiency that we calculate over here will be the exact one. Let us say the total impedance of the line is equal to 40 plus G125, F is equal to 50 Hertz, L is equal to 300 kilometer, Y is equal to G800 minus 3 ohm. Actually, I am writing only the parameters. The question itself is written in the previous class. That's the same question. Receiving power is given as 50 megawatt. Receiving voltage is 220 kV, and the load power factor is 0.8. Power factor lagging. We need to find out the voltage regulation and efficiency. Let us first calculate gamma. We have already calculated in the previous example. I have taken the same values. So it is equal to 0.0558 plus G 0.3578. So in there I told you that this is alpha and this is beta, but actually it is alpha L, this one, and actually it is beta L, because alpha and beta are per unit length, and here this is the total uh, this is the total impedance of the line and total shunt admittance of the line. So it means that we have already multiplied this L to this Z, and we have already multiplied this L to this Y as well. So that means this will be alpha L and this will be beta L. That's why I told you over here. In general, we can say this is alpha or beta. Here, this is alpha or beta. I just try to make you understand that this gamma has some real value and this has an imaginary value, and that uh, real and imaginary value will be alpha and beta. And you can see it here, I have written here Napier's per unit length. That means this term, that is actual value, it will be the actual value that we have calculated from the values of the line. It is alpha L, and this term, it is actually a beta L. So I hope you understood this. What is the difference between alpha and alpha n? Now coming back to this, so the beta L will be equal to 0.3578. So again ZC, which is the square root of Z by Y, this is also calculated in the same slide. It comes out to be equal to 362.276 at an angle of minus 8.8723 degrees ohm. Now, for a long transmission line, we know that A is equal to cos hyperbolic gamma L, which is equal to D, and B is equal to ZC sin hyperbolic gamma L, and C is equal to sin hyperbolic gamma L divided by ZC. So we need to first calculate the sine cos hyperbolic gamma L and sin hyperbolic gamma L. So cos hyperbolic gamma L will be equal to cos hyperbola, because this gamma will be equal to alpha plus j beta into L, which is equal to cos hyperbolic alpha L plus j beta L. So which is equal to, when we open it, this form, it would be cos hyperbolic gamma L cos of beta L. Here it is not hyperbola, it is only cos beta L plus j times sin hyperbolic gamma L into sin beta L. So you need to remember this format to calculate, to convert this into this, because if you directly use this in your calculator, you may not get it solved. These calculators, I don't think they have this capability of calculating the hyperbolic functions and this complex functions. So you can use this formula to convert it like this. So cos hyperbolic 0.0558 into cos of 0.3578 plus g sin hyperbolic 0.0558 into sin 0.3578. It is given over here. So here you may have to change the calculator into radian mode, because this one isn't radian. I have already calculated it, because beta is the radians per unit length. When you multiply it length, this will be all in radians. So either you calculate this into degrees and then use the degree mode of the calculator, or you keep it like this and change the mode of the calculator in the radian mode. Now after solving this cos hyperbolic gamma L comes out to be 0.93833 at an angle of 0.02083 in radians. This angle will be given by the calculator in radians. You can change it into degrees. It will be equal to 0.9383 at an angle of 1.19396 degrees. Similarly, sin hyperbolic gamma L, uh, when you open this gamma, it will be equal to sin hyperbolic alpha L plus j beta L. It will be equal to sin hyperbolic alpha L cos beta L plus j sin hyperbolic alpha L sin beta L. So that is equal to sin hyperbolic 0.0558 cos 0.3757 j cos hyperbolic 0.0558 sin 0.357. After calculating, you will get this value 0.3546 at an angle of 1.4228 radians. So sin hyperbolic gamma L comes out to be 0.3546, 81.52 degrees. So when we change this radian into degrees, now A and D is equal to cos hyperbolic gamma L, that is this value. B is equal to ZC sin hyperbolic gamma L, that is ZC is this value, and this is sin hyperbolic gamma L, that is this value. So you can get B as like this. B is equal to 128.463 at an angle of 72.6477. Definitely it will be ohms. C is equal to sine hyperbolic gamma L divided by ZC. It is 0.3546 at an angle of 81.52 divided by 362.276 at an angle of minus 8.8723. It comes out to be this value, that is 9.788 into 10 to the minus 4 at an angle of 90.3923. So here VR, that is when we use the per phase analysis, VR is equal to 220 by root 3. It is given as this 220 is given as line voltage. It comes out to be 127.01 into 10 to the power 3 volt. IR, it can be also calculated 15 to 10 to the power 6 divided by root 3 to 220 into 10 to the power 3 into 0.8. It comes out to be 164 using the angle, because it is its power factor is 0.8 lagging. It means this is lagging to this voltage by 36.86 degrees. It is minus 36.86. So calculating Vs, it is equal to AVR plus BIR. So giving the values of A, VR, B and IR, where this VR has an angle of 0 because we are taking it as reference. So this comes out to be equal to 137.039 at an angle of 6.201 kilovolt. This is the phase voltage, and line voltage for Vs, the magnitude is 237.3885 3585 kilovolt. This is the line voltage of the sending end. So this is Vs. We can also use the same thing and calculate Is is equal to CVR plus DIR. Giving the value of C, VR, D and IR, I will get this Is is equal to 128.9 at an angle of 15.47 degrees amperes. So sending end power factor will be equal to, that is current angle minus voltage angle. Current angle is 15.47 and voltage angle is 6.201. 6.20, it comes up in 9.269. So sending end power factor will be cos of 9.269, that is 0.987. So this is sending end power factor. So sending end real power will be equal to root 3 Vs, that's line voltage, Is cos of theta is root 3 237.3585 into 10 to the power 3 into 128.9, that is this current, multiplied by this power factor. So it comes out to 52.304 into 10 to the power 6 watts. It is 52.304 megawatt. So efficiency is PR divided by PS. PR is given as 50 megawatt. This is 52.304 megawatt calculated just now. So this efficiency will be 95.6%. Please try to compare this efficiency to the earlier one which we have done for the question in the earlier class. So for efficiency, we need to find out the no load receiving voltage, that is equal to Vs by A. So Vs is equal to, you can use this line voltage or phase voltage, whatever you want. I have used our line voltage. So this is 237.3885 divided by 0.9385 because we are only using the magnitudes. So it comes out to be 252.966. So voltage regulation, percentage voltage regulation will be equal to VR no load minus VR full load by VR full load. VR full load we assume to be this same voltage to this line voltage, that is system voltage. So this comes out to be 14.98%. So you can use here a phase voltage as well. So when you use the phase voltage here, you have to use phase voltage this and this, that will be 127.07 and 127.07. So by doing that, you will see that you will get the same answer. Please try to compare this result with the result which we have got earlier from the approximation, and this is the exact solution of the line. So I stop over here. We'll meet in the next class. Thank you.